start the recording now. I don't know if you have any other staff members on with you.
I do, yeah. Angela Williams is joining us as well too, but I did just start the recording. Yes.
All right. So I want to start by noting that this meeting includes the remote participation of members as authorized under Minnesota statutes section 13D.021 due to the declared local health pandemic. Please try to make sure that you are on mute when you're not speaking. To keep the meeting on schedule, please wait your turn to speak and hold questions until the end of each speaker's presentation. If you wish to be recognized, please raise your hand so that the chair can call on you. There is a chat function, but remember that those who are calling in by phone, and we have at least 3 of them, cannot see the chat, and everything typed in the chat may be posted in the public meeting minutes. I'll do my best to verbally communicate relevant information that appears in the chat and would encourage folks to share pertinent information verbally rather than just relying on the chat. And then for those participants who are calling in by phone, if you are muted and you're having trouble with getting unmuted, press *6 to turn your microphone on and off to make a comment or question. And again, as a reminder, these meetings are public and subject to the state's open meeting laws, which means that under those open meeting laws, all votes during an online meeting must be taken by roll call. So that will require SEAC members to activate their microphone to give their vote, and then don't forget to turn that microphone back off again. Finally, if at any time during this meeting you require technical assistance, please contact Kim for help. Kim's email address is kim.havey, Havey, @minneapolismn.gov. Are there any questions? Seeing none. All right, I'll call this meeting to order and ask Kim to call roll so that we may verify the presence of a quorum. And then for any community members on the call, we will provide an opportunity for you to introduce yourself after the roll call is complete.
Great, and I just wanted to let folks know that I did just drop in a link to the chat for the agenda and meeting minutes and things, the link to the LIMS account. Okay, so roll call for our meeting on February 15th. Just say present when you're here. Hannah Bond Jenkins.
Present.
Max Dalton.
Present.
Indigo David Liu. Maron Demisi.
Present.
Mark Denon.
Present.
Tess Dornfeld.
Present.
Matthew Douglas May. Sandy Fazeli.
Present.
Lauren Fleming.
Here.
Maddie Henderson. Divine Islam. Leslie Jackson.
Present.
Anna Johnson.
Present.
Toya Lopez. Barbara Lundy. Nick Minderman.
Present.
Susan Savanick Hansen.
Present.
Jacqueline Cepeda.
Present.
Aaron Niehoff.
Present.
That is 13 members, so that is a quorum.
Fantastic. I also want to mention that our meeting tonight is being staffed by Kim and Angela Williams of the City's Sustainability Division. And now I want to give an opportunity for community members and others, such as city staff and presenters who've joined us today, to unmute themselves and briefly introduce yourself with your name and organization/affiliation as applicable. So Kim, I don't know if you are able to see the participant list well and can call off. It doesn't look like we have anybody. We have one person who's called meeting guest, and then I can't really see the phone numbers.
Okay. Yeah, I can just ask folks based on their last four numbers of their phone number. How about 0389? Can push *6 to unmute and introduce yourself.
Sean
Hi, Sean.
Hey, Sean.
Grishevsky, resident Cities and Communities in the 9th Ward. Yep.
Terrific. And then 2714.
Hi, I'm Gus Perkle. I'm just observing this meeting. I'm a student at the U. I'm observing for a urban tree class thing, environmental stuff.
Okay. Come. 0884.
Hello.
Would you introduce yourself and anything else you would like to share?
Can anyone hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. My name's Molly. I'm also a student at the U and have a assignment to attend a community meeting.
Okay, great.
Well, you've joined a fun one because we're going to be going through some elections virtually, which will be very thrilling. And I guess just one last person. I'm seeing somebody who's logged in as meeting guest, and I'm wondering if there is a person associated with that.
It may come up as myself. I'm Tashana Williams. I'm a documenter with Pillsbury United.
Okay.
And that's is your number 7615?
Yes.
Okay. So I don't see the guest. I see the phone number there. So.
Okay.
And then I
Must
did.
on my end.
And then I did see Maddie joined in.
Yes, I'm here. Sorry I was late.
Great.
Well,
Well, thank you
welcome.
for coming. All right, terrific.
All right. So thanks again for joining. With that, we will proceed to our agenda, a copy of which was posted for public access to the city's Legislative Information Management System, which is available at lims, lims.minneapolismn.gov. Our first two items of business is the adoption of our agenda for tonight's meeting, followed by the acceptance of minutes from the January 25th meeting. And we can combine those together if we have the proper motion. So does anybody want to propose any changes or propose a motion?
I'll move to adopt the agenda and minutes.
This is
Thanks.
Matt. I'll second.
Okay. We have Max. Terrific. So just say yay or nay or yes or no on this one. We'll go through the roll call. Hannah.
Yes.
Max.
Yes.
You go. Iran.
Yes.
Mark.
Yes.
Tess.
Yes.
Matthew. Sandy.
Yes.
Lauren.
Yes.
Maddie.
Yes. Yes.
You. Divine. Leslie.
Yes.
Anna.
Yes.
Toya. Nick,
Yes.
Suzanne,
Yes.
Jacqueline,
Yay.
and Aaron.
Yes.
Okay, we have all yay, so that motion does pass and the minutes and agenda are accepted.
Great. Our first item on the agenda is the reading of our land acknowledgement statement. So as we meet here today, we are reminded that Minneapolis is situated on the homelands of the Dakota people, an area that is steeped in rich Indigenous history. It is home to Indigenous people from more than 30 different nations. As a city, we have a responsibility to care for the land on which we live and work and all its natural surroundings. This stewardship is an integral part of our involvement in this commission, and we honor it as we begin our meeting. And I'd like to now open this space to discuss ways in which we can support Indigenous people in our community. And I don't happen to have any off the top of my head of current things that are ongoing.
I have one that I can share. I'll drop the link in the chat, but there is a augmented reality public art at the Bruce Vento Nature Sanctuary in St. Paul that a native artist, like I'm not exactly sure how it works, but I think you walk with your phone and then you see like the artwork shown on nature. And so I thought that was just like a really cool way, especially in winter, to get out and see some things. But she also has maps that you might have seen around on social media that show both like the Twin Cities and the state of Minnesota with their Dakota names on the maps and other sort of artwork with it. So it's kind of a neat little project that she's got going on.
I hadn't heard about that, so thank you for sharing.
Yeah, when is it, Lauren?
It's just like it's been open for a while, so it's just like an ongoing thing. You go whenever you want. So I just put the link in the chat to the Dakota Spirit Walk. Yeah.
Dakota Spirit Walk. Okay.
Anybody else? Okay, with that, we are gonna, oh, Tess, I see that your camera's turning on.
Yeah. I was just gonna say, yesterday is observed across the continent as a day of remembrance and observance for missing and murdered Indigenous women, girls, and Two-Spirit people. So I just wanted to recognize that. There's also actually a federal observance on May 5th, and they'll hopefully in person be an action happening at the state capitol, but there were a couple of virtual events yesterday in observance that are recorded that you can find online. Unfortunately, I can't see or access the chat again. I don't know if there's something wrong. My device is not up to date, but I can share information about that with anyone who's interested.
And thank you for bringing that to our awareness. Also, I will say for myself, I did not realize that about yesterday's date. So thank you for sharing. Okay. Not seeing anybody else.
I have a question.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, so so it's Black History Month, right?
Yes, it
So by asking to support Indigenous Native Americans during this time, whatever, you know what I'm saying? Can you correlate that to Black history? Because this is Black History Month. So
yeah.
Because I need to understand during Black History Month, what events are you supporting in the spirit of Black history?
We can certainly open it up for that. I will say for myself, I am a state employee, and there's somebody within the state government who's actually been set up an hour and a half long kind of event every single weekday, so we can hear from Black justices, the leaders of different departments who are Black. Yeah,
Is
just
that
learning.
that's with the city, within the city of Minneapolis? Is that what they're doing?
That's what the state of Minnesota. Somebody within the state government organized that, and they've had over 1,200 participants so far. So that's just for state employees, but they've gotten a really good participation so far.
So really no events that what we just heard about, these two events, there's nothing that can be offered for supporting Black History Month events in the community?
Kim, do you know of any Black History events that might be being put on by the city?
Or
I have not heard, no.
are these two events being put on by the city?
No.
No.
They're just
Okay.
separate.
Okay.
Yeah.
I did see an interesting history of the Sabathany Center. Actually has kind of a small history museum in it as well at 38th and 4th Avenue. And it talks a lot about early civil rights leaders and the forming of Sabathany Center. And of course, it was formed before even moving into the school they're in right now. But so that was interesting. Was on a tour there yesterday. So it's a permanent installation on the second floor, I believe. But yeah, I thought it was really interesting, and of course, very local history about South Minneapolis and Black leadership in South Minneapolis.
Great.
And this isn't specific to Black History Month because it's going on for a little bit, but the Science Museum in St. Paul has an exhibit on race, about how race is fabricated, but racism is very real. And I have found it very interesting and have taken my son a couple of times. And if folks have the means to go, definitely encourage it.
And for those who don't know, Sandy has a young son. So have you found it to be like relatively age appropriate things to do with him?
Not necessarily that exhibit. He gets more excited about the dinosaurs, but we still walk through it every time we go. Hopefully in time, he will show more nuance.
I'll drop a link in the chat, but CARE 11 had a page with a bunch of Black History events going on, so I'll leave that in the chat. Some of them have already happened, but more resources there.
I was going to say, we are halfway through the month, so I'm glad that events have been happening. Yeah.
The Spokesman Recorder also has a calendar of events throughout the community that they've collected.
Okay. Thank you, Tess. Maren, did you have something that you wanted to say?
Yeah, I was going to say I attended a couple of the events, and I did find a lot of the events from CARE 11 as well. Did the Midtown Global Market a couple of weeks ago, and then last week did the Black Market. So a lot of vendors that are Black or Native or people of color. So Anna, thank you. Yeah, I think CARE 11 is doing a really good job of posting it and making sure that it's available for people. The museum, MIA, also has exhibits. There's a lot of events going on. I think it's up to everyone to kind of make an initiative to find these outstanding events. The African American Museum in North Minneapolis also has events throughout the month of Black History Month. So I do recommend check it out.
Thank you. Lauren.
That's me. Yeah,
Okay.
I have one. So it took me a minute to look it up, but there was one that I saw going around that's on Sunday at 2 p.m. and it's put on by the Loft. And so it's a discussion about place and art. And it's titled More Than a Single Story, with a discussion centered around place. And it actually has Native speakers and Black speakers. I know Say 2K Jones is like the big name on there that I know and have, seen his artwork in St. Paul before. So I'll copy that into the chat. And it's $5 for non-members, and then there's also a pay what you can sliding scale.
Thank you very much for the question that led off to this great conversation.
Sorry, could I'd like to gauge other commission members' interest in maybe opening the discussion every month to beyond just Indigenous culture and supporting them, and thinking about how we can support any sort of disadvantaged or marginalized group. I don't know if we have to vote on that. Just
I don't know that we have to, but I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, we that's not like a requirement or things. That was something that was done initially, just really try to bring awareness to Native Americans, and that was done by SEAC leadership a year or two ago. But certainly can be open, and anything as the opening that you'd like to have on there. I do like the idea too of us. It's a good reminder, like just understanding what's happening with Black History Month or other holiday months or other activities like that. It's good to keep it open, because there's a lot of things that we haven't heard, like today, and all kinds of fun, interesting things to do and support.
Mm-hmm. Anything else on Black History Month? Oh, Patty?
Hello.
Hi, Patty.
Hi, Kim. Sorry, I'm maybe right on time, but maybe late.
No, no, we actually have not done the election yet, but we're just sharing about Black History Month events and Indigenous events to support Indigenous communities, things like that. So, but we are just about to move to the next election piece. So hopefully that will be fairly soon.
Okay. I just have a meeting at 6. So.
Right. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
All right. So, so first order of business is this election. So currently the nominations that we've had are Anna Johnson for chair, and then Barbara Lundy and Sandy Fazeli for vice chair. Are there any other commissioners who would like to run for chair or vice chair? Last call, because then nominations are going to close and we're going to go ahead and hop to voting. Hearing none, Anna, do you want to give like a quick minute or two about why you want to be chair?
Yeah, thanks, Erin. Hey, everyone. It's great to be here. Just want to kind of touch on how I see the role of the chair and why I'm interested. So based on my experience last year, it seems like the chair is responsible for agenda setting and staying on time and helping to ensure our agenda reflects the priorities of our group, submitting letters on behalf of the group, and also cultivating a space where commissioners really feel empowered and comfortable engaging and sharing to the extent that they want to. And I'm interested in continuing all those and growing off of what Erin has built so far. I've learned a lot from her in the last year. A little bit about my background. I have a background in public policy, especially in the last 4 years. I've focused on work in the climate and energy advocacy space. So my lens and kind of expertise is focused around decarbonization and doing that in a way that actively recognizes and addresses systemic racism so that we can use climate action as a way to make progress on both of those issues concurrently. I've learned a lot in the last year as vice chair, and I'd be excited to serve as chair and to help SEAC utilize our power and voice within the city to help hold our city government accountable and push them towards meaningful and equitable environmental action. So I would appreciate your vote today. Thank you.
Sandy, do you want to go ahead?
Sure. Thanks, Erin. Thanks, Anna, too. Yeah, I think I just highlight a few aspects of me that I think I would bring to the vice chair position. First is that I've been a member of SEAC for a few years now, so I've gotten to see how it works, both in pandemic and non-pandemic times. So hopefully we'll get to all be in person again soon. But I've also gotten to see how impactful it can be, whether we're taking positions on ordinances or just using our collective voice to draw attention to issues that are happening in the city. I think it's an important part of Minneapolis's sustainability journey, and I've been very proud to be part of it. I also realize I bring a lot of privilege to SEAC. I don't really consider myself representative of the communities and the groups that we're trying to help the most, but I do hope to be able to encourage, as Anna mentioned, a platform where everybody feels comfortable bringing issues to the fore. Racial equity and intergenerational justice are extremely important to me in my personal life and in my job. So I would hope to help SEAC continue to be forward-leaning on those issues. And then third, in just my day-to-day job, I work with state policymakers on clean energy issues and have had more experience with virtual meetings than I care to have. So I think I would just be able to help keep things organized and hopefully on track in a virtual setting. And when we get back to in-person, hopefully I'll be able to dust off those skills as well. And then I guess just finally, like on a personal note, I know that governments and corporations are kind of the key entities that need to be held responsible for our climate crisis, but I do appreciate when individuals take action and when there are opportunities for us to work together. And so that's just one of the reasons why I really appreciate SEAC and would like to help it grow over the coming year.
Thanks, Sandy. Has Barbara hopped on?
I do not see her, no.
Okay. So, I think now we will work on taking the vote.
Right. And I'm just recommending, I mean, I guess what we could do if there's, we have a, just to save a little bit of time, is since we have Anna as chair for right now, and we do not have any anyone running against her. Is there anyone, can I just ask if there's anyone who would not want to vote for her? Otherwise I will just mark through the roll call and we'll have a unanimous approval.
I'm just gonna take my headset off and look away for a minute so people feel comfortable expressing dissent.
Yes.
I was going to say, especially like as we're all staring at Anna's face.
Yeah, we'll
Say
ask
no.
Sandy to do the same thing as we go for there, but
I have no objections.
all right, seeing no objections, we'll consider that a unanimous approval for Anna, and I'll mark down this. So, yay!
Nice, the clapping was effective, thank you.
Congratulations.
Awesome, thanks everyone. Excited to work with y'all.
And then Sandy is ducking off.
All right, and yeah, I do have her. So here we'll go through, and then you can just either indicate your vote for Barbara or your vote for Sandy. All right, Hannah.
Vote for Sandy.
Max.
I vote for Sandy.
Indigo. Aaron.
Sandy.
Mark.
I vote for Sandy as well.
Tess.
Sandy.
Matthew. I will put a vote down for Sandy for herself. Lauren.
I vote for Sandy.
Maddie.
I vote for Sandy.
Divine. Leslie.
I vote for Sandy.
Anna,
Sandy.
Toya.
Sandy?
I will put a vote for Barbara. Well, she's not here. She can't vote. Nick Minderman.
Vote for Sandy, please.
Thanks. Suzanne.
I'll vote for Sandy.
Jacqueline.
I'm voting for Sandy.
Okay. And Aaron.
Voting for Sandy.
Okay, so that's 15 votes for Sandy.
I don't know what to get her back.
I'll text her to come back in if she's there.
I just texted her too. So
Okay, great.
fingers crossed she'll hop back on here very, very soon. All right. So with that, and hopefully Sandy hops on back very soon, but I will now turn things over to Anna.
All right, thank you, Aaron. Thanks everyone. I'll go ahead and just turn it right over to Kim.
Right.
Yeah, come on back, Sandy, for our first presentation.
All right, great. And I did want to say a real big thank you to Aaron for the last 4 years of leading SEAC. You've done an incredible amount of commitment and time and thoughtfulness in the drafting and redrafting of letters and facilitating this, and you've done a really, really great job. So I just wanted to say thank you so much for that and for your work as chair. So.
Thank you, Ellen!
So awesome. So our first presentation today is going to be from Patty Bowler, who's with the Minneapolis Health Department. And she is going to be giving us an update on the Food Action Plan and also a survey that they have going on for that. She's the Director of Policy and Healthy Communities with the Minneapolis Health Department, and she oversees staff that drives the Homegrown Minneapolis Food Council, as well as the Food Action Plan that's been going on for the last couple of years, and a number of other things. So I will turn it over to Patty.
Great. Thank you so much, Kim. And hello, everybody. I want to say I vote for Sandy. I love your election. And I'm also part of the Homegrown, or have been, Homegrown Food Council, which is another board and commission that the city of Minneapolis has. And it's great to see how this group operates as opposed to the Food Council. There's a lot of similarities. I'm going to be talking about the Minneapolis Food Action Plan tonight. And Kim, do you want me to share my screen, or do you want to share the slides?
If it's not, you're able to do it, I'd prefer that.
Okay. I always have a little bit of anxiety about this because sometimes I can't readily find my presentations because I have so many windows open. But let's see if I can. Okay, and do you see this?
Yes.
Yes.
We
okay.
do.
And it might have the notes on it.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry about that. I don't know how to put it in another format unless I go to slideshow.
Yeah, if you go to slideshow, it should come up.
Okay.
You can give it. Yeah.
Does that work?
That works for us as long as you can still see your notes. Otherwise, I am totally fine with seeing a presentation while also seeing your notes, whatever works best for you.
Okay, great. I also have my notes printed out, and hopefully they're somewhat in my head. I wanted to say that I'm pinch hitting for Tamara Down Shui, who's the coordinator for Homegrown Minneapolis, and she's really been the brainchild behind the Minneapolis Food Action Plan, and she is celebrating her birthday tonight and so is unable to be with us. But I hope to, walk us through this information and then also take any questions that you might have. So I believe that the Minneapolis Food Action Plan was started in 2018, and might have been started in 2019. I helped to start Homegrown Minneapolis and was involved for a number of years, and then went off of the Food Council for a while. And this really got kicked off while I was off the Food Council, and now I'm back engaged. But the whole intent was to create a strategic plan for the city of Minneapolis as it relates to our local food system. And Tamara was aware of the Milan Urban Food Policy Pact. I'm not sure if any of you are aware of that, that pact. But she wanted to kind of use that as a guide for developing the Minneapolis Food Action Plan. I should note, and I'm inviting Kim to, jump in with any information he has, that the plan is supposed to be an addendum to the climate action plan that sustainability developed. But it also stands on its own merit as the strategic plan for our food system. The kind of the partners that have come together to develop this plan include two departments of the city. I represent the health department, and Homegrown was initially part of sustainability in the coordinator's office, and then moved over to our health department in, summer of 2020. So the health department, and then also the sustainability department of the coordinator's office. The Sustainable Healthy Cities program, the National Science Foundation, the University of Minnesota, and then Princeton. And the way Princeton's been involved is that we first started to work with academics at the University of Minnesota to help us develop this plan. They really served as our consultants. And they moved, one of them in particular moved to Princeton, and then brought the funding and the project with her from the University of Minnesota to Princeton. I'm happy to say, though, that we're back working really closely with the University of Minnesota, and there's been some funding that's kind of gone back and forth between those institutions. So the overarching goal of the food policy or the food action plan, you can see here. And as I mentioned, we call it a roadmap to develop a more equitable, climate resilient, just and sustainable local food system. And again, I really call it a strategic plan. In addition to the partners that I mentioned in the first slide, the Food Council, which is one of the boards and commissions, they've been very integral in developing the Food Action Plan. We did start this work in 2018, 2019. I remember it has gotten very delayed by COVID, but I think we're very much back on track. But I remember one of the last meetings I went to, one of the last in-person meetings I went to, was to talk about the whole area of diet and healthy food access, kind of before everything shut down. And I think that was like early March or late February of 2020. So it's taken longer than we would have wanted to kind of come to fruition. Our researchers from the U and then Princeton helped the Food Council. We had a consultant to kind of group things into 5 large topics. And I apologize in advance for the wordiness of this slide. I know it's really, really hard to read, but I think Kim will send out slides later, or they'll be on the LIMS system. So these are the topics here. The first one was justice and equity, and I'm going to talk about that in just a minute. The second was about diets and demand. The third topic is all about agricultural food production. The fourth topic, processing food, both on a wholesale, retail context and also food distribution. And then the last topic is wasted food and food scraps. So that's a lot right there. The first topic was about justice and equity. And so what came about as a result of that topic is the development and the inclusion of these 7 food justice principles. So we didn't want to just say, you know, one of our goals is equity. Well, yes, it is. But we also wanted to articulate more intentionally the food justice principles that would guide the development of the food action plan. So what was really important is inclusion, leadership, and decision making, and that's really how we do our business in our homegrown Minneapolis program, and also in the Food Council. We wanted to be very mindful that the social determinants of health, which are like housing and education, et cetera, income, adequate income, all of those social determinants really impact health and the food system. The concept of recognition, reparations, and respect as it relates to our food system was also very important, as is the concept of food access. And so I can say from a health department standpoint, we've been working on food access for many, many years. But it's a really important part of this food action plan. And then the notion of how food is produced and how it's processed, so it's produced in an environmentally friendly way, is really important. The notion of food skills is very important. You can create an environment where you're supporting food access, but people also need the food skills and ones that reflect folks' cultural heritage. And then the last piece is the recognition that all these sectors are interdependent. So that we wanted the food action plan to demonstrate that that term, $50,000 word, intersectionality, is really important as well. And so what happened is the Princeton folks took these topics, the 5 topics, and they wove them into pathways. And pathways is a kind of clever word that really means big buckets of recommendations. And so and I'm going to show you what that means in just a minute. But we received a lot of feedback from community members that helped us create these 6 pathways, which I want to show you. Here they are. And so, and we've been getting a lot of input as all of this stuff rolls out. I'm going to tell you about that in just a minute. But the pathways are increasing urban agriculture, connecting local producers and farmers with local markets, increasing consumption of a healthy plant-based diet, decreased wasted food and improving the management of food scraps, and continuing studying our food system to create innovative solutions to advance plan outcomes. I want to make sure that I got all those pathways. And then underneath each of these pathways, there are strategies that would help us work on these pathways. I mentioned that we've gotten community feedback all along. The Food Council has been heavily involved in this work. And then we held a series of deep dive sessions last fall where we looked at these pathways. We had a deep dive session for each pathway, and we looked at the recommendations, and people provided feedback. And as you can see, there was in that prior slide, there's a lot of information there. So how do we prioritize this work? We can't work on everything at once. We've got limited staff, limited dollars. How do we prioritize this work? So we're doing a couple of things. We're sending out a citywide survey, and I'm going to put the link in the chat when I'm done. And then we're also working with community-based organizations. We've got these kind of small contracts with community-based organizations to do specific outreach, asking participants about the pathways and what's most important, and then also asking them to take the citywide survey. Once we get that information back, probably in April, we're going to, or the U is going to analyze the feedback and give it to us in a synthesized format. Then the Food Council and other parts of the city will discuss the results and do some prioritization based on what they've heard from the community. We're going to contract with Terrasoma, which is a independent consultant who's been heavily involved in food work to draft our plan. And then again, we'll get more input through the city council and other parts of the city and community. And we're asking the council to formally adopt the Minneapolis Food Action Plan. Again, that's going to fit with the Climate Action Plan. And then, of course, where the rubber meets the road is actually implementing the plan. That'll be, I think, the tough part of this work. We're going to need everybody's involvement as we implement the various aspects of the plan. So that's the plan in a nutshell. And now I have to figure out how I actually get back to see you all.
Up at the top of your screen, you should see stop share, and then just automatically pop up.
Okay. Whoops.
Yeah, just push the X on that little, the screen share. Should pop you back.
Great, thank you.
Hey,
I told you I'm technologically challenged. So that was kind of a lot, and I'm wondering if there are some questions or comments.
I'm sorry. Can I ask a question?
Go ahead.
Kim, is it okay? I just wanted to know what.
Sure.
I just wanted to know what community-based organizations are you working with specifically in the green zones?
Okay, I'm not sure exactly where the green zones are, but we're working with Appetite for Change. We're working with Clues. We're working with the Audubon Neighborhood Association. And I'm going to have to go, and Tamara could rattle these off, but I haven't been involved in this part of the work. I'm going to have to go and look in my notes and probably put the rest of the organizations in the chat.
Okay. Thank you.
Pillsbury United is another one that's there and working closely.
We tried to work with Pillsbury United, but they didn't have the bandwidth to help us with that. They're on the Food Council. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I already kind of forgot I was in charge now. I relied on Aaron so much. Leslie, your hand is up.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do have a question, and I know this is a city effort and that you're helping and work with the community. And as you know, Minneapolis is a big, wide food desert. And I heard you say you're working with different community organizations. I'm wondering, and I heard you mention food scraps. Is there a plan to have a city compost like Chicago? So creating black gold, as to speak, for community gardens and maybe even the homegrown to come in to be able to get soil instead of buying them in the plastic bags. And then we have that plastic waste and yada, yada, yada. So I'm just wondering, is there a plan that, or has anybody suggested that? Because Chicago is doing very good in that area. And so I was just wondering, has Minneapolis taken that into consideration, or the Food Council?
Thank you for that question. I'm going to have to I'm going to have to ask Tamara that question because she might know the answer to that and I don't. I'm sure it's probably come up in the context of the Food Action Plan, but I don't have the specifics. And Kim, can you bring anything to that answer?
Well, I know that, for example, we do get compost that's available to the community gardens that are used, and there is a city compost that's brought there. There isn't a coordinated effort, say, between the pickup of compost and what is presented at like community gardens and available for folks, but there is compost that is made available as part of the community gardening efforts. And I know as part of like food scraps and the whole composting components of food action plan, there's a lot of strategies around the idea of reducing food waste first and foremost and getting that food eaten and used. But then of course also looking for ways to take it out of the waste stream to be able to utilize it for either gardens or other kinds of uses throughout the city and in other areas.
So I was just curious because that is something that could be a part of the climate action to get down to emission zero, even though that's going to take an effort, but it's just creating a different stream as well as creating jobs for the community. And I'm pretty sure we do have places that we can probably have our own compost, from the waste to create a job line, in that form. So, thank you very much for your time and thank you for your presentation.
Yeah, thank you. Is that Leslie? Trying to see who's
Yes,
talking.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Also, the green zones, we have Michelle Shaw, I believe that's her last name. She has edible boardwalk gardens that she's doing an effort to have the community grow vegetables in front of their homes. So that's another, that's an organization that's on the North Side Green Zone Task Force. So
Okay.
I'll let her know about this presentation. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I put in the chat the survey that I was talking about. So please take the survey and then also promote it. We'd really appreciate it if you shared it with others.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Patty. Maddie has her hand up. I know you have to go right at 6, Patty. But Maddie, if you have a quick question.
Okay, I guess a 30-second question. Could you elaborate more on what Kim just touched on about kind of decreasing the amount of food waste period and how you plan to increase the amount of food that gets eaten by people? Do you have any specific plans on that?
So what you can see, what our recommendations were in the PowerPoint presentation, and there are many different recommendations around increasing healthy access to access to healthy food. So I'm just looking at my notes here, and these are all ideas at this point. And then what we're going to have to do is prioritize these ideas. So like disincentivize the consumption of unhealthy foods, improve the affordability of healthy foods, integrating healthy eating into the mainstream of healthcare practices. I mean, the list goes on. And the same as it relates to food scraps and food waste. So again, this is a strategic plan. We haven't gotten to the implementation stage. We haven't even gotten to the prioritization stage. So I would just encourage you to take that survey and to voice your opinion in terms of what you think should be worked on.
This is Leslie. Quick question before you go, and I'm so sorry.
No problem.
As far as cutting down the food and the waste, do you guys calculate how much food is brought into these stores and how much food that they throw out? Is there an inventory for that? And I was just wondering because I see people diving dumpsters, homeless people getting the food. So I was just wondering, and that stream, if they can do a management plan about that, because I'm pretty sure there's a correlation of how much waste in these stores and how much they actually physically put out once they arrive, because I've seen them sit for a couple of days at Cub Foods, and that I'm sorry for that. And I'm sorry to keep you longer.
No problem. I have some flexibility. So, yeah, these are all great questions. And there's a lot of interest in cutting down on food waste. I know that we aren't doing that specific work about measuring food waste, but Hennepin County has a kind of a whole food waste initiative. And maybe what would be good, Kim, if you've got time on a future agenda, would be to invite them in or talk about food waste. You're kind of getting the B string here with me. I kind of know the big picture. I don't know all the specifics of the food system. So that might be something. It sounds like there's a lot of interest in that topic.
Thank you.
Sure. Well, thank you all for your time tonight. Again, take that survey. And I will also put in the chat when I find it, our list of the organizations that we're working with as well.
Thanks so much for your time, Patty, and please keep us posted if there's ways SEAC can continue to be helpful or provide feedback or anything going forward.
Okay, thank you so much.
Kim, I'll pass it back to you for our next presentation.
Yeah. Well, this is really what I wanted to do, is just have an opportunity to introduce one of our lead consultants who has been selected to help project manage and bring forward our update to the climate action plan and create a climate action and equity plan. So I thought I would bring in early on here. We've had our first initial staff meeting, but just to introduce herself and the work that she's done and kind of talk a little bit about high level what we're gonna try to work on over the next year as part of this update. So I've asked Alicia Belton, who's the principal at the Urban Design Perspectives, to join us tonight. UDP and Precipitate have been selected as the consultants to lead the development of the climate action and equity plan. So we're here today just to sort of get to know one another, and then we'll be back periodically to check in, and we also plan to have some opportunities to engage with SEAC members as part of either an advisory group or a task force working on particular topics. So I will turn it over to Alicia to introduce herself, and then we can open it up for questions and discussion.
Great. Good evening, everyone. It's nice to be here, and we're so excited for the opportunity to get to work on this climate and equity plan. And so myself and along with Precipitate, we are have combined our two firms together to assemble this plan. As Kim said, we just had a kickoff meeting last Friday with their team to really get an understanding of, how we're going to move forward. Our intention is to meet with their team early on, pretty frequently, weekly, and then, at some point, spread that out as we develop the schedule. We'll form a steering committee, which will be determined. We haven't identified the groups that will be involved, but that steering committee will help inform our process and planning. We'll be very intentional about reaching out to community organizations as well to, to hear what's on their hearts, and make sure that we are incorporating some of the learnings that have already happened in the previous plan. There's some targets that we talked about that we will, try to come up with the specific steps in order to get to those targets. And so that's really what our role is in this process. And really, as as an advisor and listener, we've done community engagement work in the city, as well as Precipitate's work at higher kind of education venues. And so, we feel that the two strengths of the firm will really help put this plan together. We've got great resources in your staff, Kim. So we're looking forward to seeing what we can glean from the resources that you provided and looking at what other cities have done to help inform our thinking as well. And yeah, we're excited to get started. So we know we have a lot of work to do before delivering a plan at the end of this year in order to get approval for next year. But really looking forward to getting started. So I will answer questions again. We've had one meeting, so I don't have a whole lot to share, but know that we are open to your suggestions, and just want to make sure that we are hearing from the right people, so that we're making sure that we're including as many voices as possible for a plan that will be content rich and also applicable to what we're trying to do here in the cities.
Thanks, Alicia. Any questions right off the bat? I've got one to kick us off. Do you have a sense of, I know it's preliminary, but like just the overall like timeline and process at all?
Yeah, I mean, what we're thinking is we're shooting to be finished in December with our planning, so that we can have a draft for whatever committee needs to review it, so that we can incorporate any other things that we may have missed or may need to reshape and reframe. So that's what our goal is. We're thinking that we're going to meet with the steering committee when it gets formed, like once a month. Initially, like I said, we'll be meeting weekly with Kim's team, and just making sure that we are laying forth the plan. We'll identify what specific groups in the community, and those will at least, check in to do kind of like a layout of what the plan is, have some time to gather information, and then come back and say, this is what we've heard. Are there some other things that we have missed? And then hopefully have an opportunity to get a draft in front of those constituents as well. So that's kind of what we're thinking. We are planning to have like a draft plan completed in the next couple of weeks. So that's where we're at right now.
A draft work plan.
A
so
draft,
that will that kind of that lays out all the sort of milestones or
Yeah.
the big stuff, at least, so we get a kind of handle around ourselves. But yeah, the goal is to try to deliver something for approval by the end of Q1 2023. So have sort of the draft done by the end of the year, and then kind of review with various community and input, and then bring it to the council in March or something around that time frame. Obviously, we know it takes a lot of time to do these, and you heard from Patty Bullard right before Alicia signed on that they've been working on the food action plan, which I'm on the food council as well too, since 2019. So it takes a long time, but we want to really deliver this more quickly. And we've got a lot of information already. We have green zone work plans. We have a transportation action plan that was just approved. We have a comp plan 2040. We have the food action plan. So there's a lot of stuff that we can kind of use as already information gathered. So I'm hoping that we're going to put a lot of effort into community outreach and really trying to do this as a human focused, equity based plan. So kind of changing around how we look at the goals. But ultimately, as far as what we need to do in carbon reduction, those kind of technological things, we've talked about this fair share science-based targets, and we'll plan to bring those to council in March as sort of a formal approval of those as the sort of foundation of the goals for the climate action plan, and also our local renewable energy goals community-wide as well will be a part of that, to sort of start off the goals setting for the plan.
Awesome, thanks so much. Sandy?
Hi, Alicia. Thanks so much for being here. I was curious about the whether there will be any like stakeholder engagement principles that guide how you're working with the community. Like, will community groups be compensated for the expertise they're bringing to the planning process, or might this be like in multiple languages that help bring underrepresented voices to the table.
Absolutely, absolutely. We want to make sure that it is as accessible as possible. You know, we are thinking we're going to be doing some virtual meetings initially, and maybe we might have an opportunity to meet in person, you know, maybe this summer sometime as weather permits and as, you know, you know, whatever kind of COVID guidelines there are. You know, what we've had in our, you know, kind of engagement experiences, in some cases, the constituents are compensated. We have to talk about that. We haven't talked about that with Kim's team. We did propose that, but, you know, just trying to figure out what makes sense and you know, how many. So that is part of this just of the discussion, but we haven't decided that as of yet. But for sure, making sure that you know, people aren't comfortable meeting in person, that there is a virtual option, as well as, you know, the language. We want to remove any barriers toward language. So those have been the most successful ways that we've had opportunity to engage with people, and developing a list of guiding values and principles so that, you know, we are all coming from the same place. You know, we've initially, our internal project team has talked about, you know, what level of education might we have to provide so that when we do talk to people, that they are understanding why we are doing this and why this is important, you know, and what, you know, here are their goals, and this is how this impacts you directly and more broadly the community. So, you know, we will do some of that kind of teaching as part of the engagement, but really an opportunity to hear what's on people's hearts, you know, and we know that when you do this, there's going to be lots of other things that come up. And so we want to make sure that we are, you know, capturing that information as well and bringing it back to the steering committee and figuring out, you know, what do we do with that? Because we don't want to leave it left unheard. You know, the other thing that we're noticing as we've been doing engagement work is that, you know, community is tired, you know, so how do we deal with that too? And how do we make sure that we are, you know, coming from a place of understanding and empathy? So yeah, so all those things, but yeah, we do need to come up with some value guiding principles to help inform the work, to make sure that that's relevant and meaningful, and that it's reaching as many people as possible.
Thank you so much. Sorry, one quick comment.
Yeah.
I do, a lot of the city like meeting minutes and stuff do capture community member perspective. So maybe part of the research project is actually to look into how community members have responded to other projects. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I did a deep dive of the East Phillips community meeting minutes, and there was just a wealth of information that can sort of be the foundation so that you're asking the questions that are value adds as opposed to starting from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
But thank you for that.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
Thanks, Sandy. Leslie?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Elise, for coming to speak about this. My question is, how is this plan going to be different than the prior plans that was already set? And are you looking at the prior plans and doing any of different implementations to it? And is this plan going to be a big consideration about the growth of population as water scarcity starting to affect across the United States?
So we have been given access to the previous plans and the work processes that have taken place. And so right now we're familiarizing ourselves with that. And so, you know, we want to honor that work and make sure we're building on it, and also making sure that we're not, how can I put this? Just making sure that we're doing the things that we need to do in order to have a successful plan. So what we've read so far, there were some areas where, you know, people felt like they were not addressed, you know, so how do we make sure that those concerns are top of mind? And, you know, there's going to be things that obviously that we have not thought about that are weighing on people's hearts. So we want to make sure that we gather that information, and, you know, we're going to have to somehow kind of categorize it into different topics. And so, you know, we haven't formulated, you know, what those specific areas are going to be around water, around transportation, around, renewable energy. We haven't done that yet. So I think as we start these listening sessions and we start gathering information, I think those themes will start to become pretty clear, and we'll be able to at least identify what category they go in, so then that we can provide strategies around those categories. Does that make sense?
Kinda. So one quick question.
Okay.
How deep are you going to go and reach into the community? Do you have a list of all the environmental justice communities that groups that are within the green zones and without, that are within the city itself? And will it be a massive email to those individuals so they are aware of what's going on, so they won't feel excluded, even though we say included, because you can include them, but they might not have that voice to be heard.
Right.
And that's what problem with the city and what's happening in North Minneapolis. And people say they want to include us, but then they don't hear what our real major concerns, and then they skip over it or dismiss it, and then the problem continues, and then the community is mad, and then we have people getting very indignant in these meetings and screaming because they feel their voices aren't heard. So my thing is, how deep are you going to do into the community of everyone to have their voice heard? Thank you again, and I'm sorry for the second question.
No, that's fine. That's great. We are collecting, as part of our outline right now. Our task list is to create, who do we need to be talking to? So that those lists and those groups have not been organized yet, and so we're looking for input from this group as to see who should be invited. And so, yes, those voices are important. They're important to be there to be heard. And so no, we are very, very open to doing that. We're currently working on a project on Lake Street right now, a community engagement process along the whole corridor from Nicollet all the way to Hiawatha Avenue. And, it's so important to make sure that, we're engaging residents, we're engaging business holders, we're engaging different, BIPOC communities, landlords. And so we're casting the net very broadly so that we can make sure, because each group has a different nuance about their concerns. And so we want to make sure that we are going deep and wide. So we have not assembled a list, but certainly open to getting as many of those voices to be a part of the dialogue, and then asking those that are there, who else should be here that's not here yet, so those are part of our, creating the work plan steps. And I think as we start to do that, we'll be able to start filling in, and realize, who are we missing? We're missing, the Somalian community. We're missing, the Latino community, making sure that we are, again, casting wide the net and making sure we're having opportunities for deeper involvement.
Thanks, Leslie. Nick?
Yes. Hi. Thank you again, Alicia, for joining us today. Two things. First of all, I don't know to what extent your team or Precipitate was involved in the 2040 plan, but I know that there were very significant efforts by CPED to do community outreach, and the outcomes from that plan, were I won't say they disrupted the status quo / transformational, or were transformational depending on whose opinion you ask. But I think the city probably learned something, and the CPED staff, as well as who was working on that, probably learned a lot about how to make sure that you're not just reaching out to those communities, but actively trying to cultivate the opinions of people who traditionally are skeptical about whether the city would genuinely use their information. And so I think to the extent that your team wasn't involved in that, maybe if there's an opportunity for Kim to connect you with folks that were involved in the 2040 plan, it could be helpful. And then the other thing that Kim mentioned that I just want to really highlight, if it hasn't already come up, is the 2040 plan and the Transportation Action Plan were predicated on the previous Climate Action Plan. They referred to it in some cases. And that previous Climate Action Plan was based on targets that we're now in the process of, this commission has made a suggestion that those targets should be superseded by more aggressive targets. And so while, there's strategies in the Transportation Action Plan and the 2040 plan, I would put money on the fact that they will be insufficient to reach the new targets that the SEAC is recommending. And so I just want to make sure that there's not exceptional reliance on those other plans, because things have changed since those plans were adopted that are really important to consider.
That's helpful. Thank you.
Thanks, Nick. I don't see any other hands up at the moment. Leslie?
Okay, at least I'm the co-chair of the Northside Green Zone Task Force.
Okay.
And we're creating a Green Zone Summit. We are going to be reaching with other environmental communities, and we have put together some lists from members that we were naming. And Angela, she is assisting us with the green zones, and she could probably share that list, what we've so far created. And I don't know who you have or who's who, because I don't know, and I'm still learning. I just, in 2019, I graduated out the university. Okay. So I'm just still getting my feet into this arena. But we did create a list, and we're more happy. I'll be more than happy to have Angela share that with you, so that way people aren't upset.
No,
just to keep the peace in the community.
What?
Yeah, I can't do that at this meeting.
Okay.
No, but we can get it sent, or we can give it to Kim, or I can have Kelly give it, because we're all interconnected. So the green zones is under the sustainability, so it can be shared. And sharing knowledge and information within our city and within our community is very important for this movement to make a change. And so everybody's voices is heard, because it's important that we move forward instead of going backwards. It's okay to look backwards at what's happened, but move forward on a mistake and doing things, as Nick said, because things have changed. And so I as a co-chair is willing to share that information with you, because I want everybody to be voices into this thing, because everybody has a different view of needs within the city and where they live within the community. I'm born and raised in Minneapolis, okay, south side to the north side. So I know how to shortcuts, Hills Yard and everything. The buildings might change, but the name of the streets always remain the same. So thank you for this presentation.
Yeah, great. Now we would love to see that. Excuse me. Love to see that list. And again, we're super open. We know that this, climate inequity, and we're trying to make sure that those, those voices that have often not been present at the table to be a part of these discussions are included in a very meaningful way. Yeah, so absolutely would love to get the list. So.
Yeah, thanks all for your questions. This is a really great discussion, and leads me to the question of, will there be an opportunity to provide feedback on the work plan once that's created? Or will public feedback be only for like a draft plan?
Kim, that's that's up to you, I think.
Yeah, I'm not we hadn't thought about having it on the actual work plan, but certainly it'd be worthwhile. I think we could bring it, I don't know, depending on when it comes in, we could bring it to the next meeting and at least be able to take feedback on it and stuff like that. There's nothing, I am not opposed to that at all. I just didn't think of it before. So once we have it in, we're kind of thinking a couple of weeks yet before we'll have it, and we were going to reiterate. So certainly let's talk about it at the executive committee meeting where we set the agenda. And if it looks like we can bring it forward, I'm happy to do that for our next meeting.
Cool, thanks. Yeah, I appreciate that openness. I think this discussion around kind of the methodology around community engagement is a super important one, and sort of making sure that process is set up in a way that will be successful kind of right from the outset, I think would be really useful to get
So Anna,
some feedback.
I have one more question here to Sean Grzyski.
Go ahead.
From Ward 9. And the question I had, well, it's kind of a possible opportunity for both the Climate Action Plan development and SEAC and EVAC. We're having a meeting this Thursday. I invited you to, Anna, with MN 350 and some of the Green New Deal ward-based teams that they're in 13 wards across the city. So there's always been a challenge for SEAC to try to get good two-way communication with all the neighborhoods, since there's 89 of the neighborhoods. But potentially one of the things we could do is work with the 13 Green New Deal ward teams that can then tie into the 4 or 5 neighborhood groups, in each ward, and then, try to have some dialogue in terms of the Climate Action Plan, but then also staying engaged after the Climate Action Plan is developed to be partners in implementing it, in terms of helping, get the word out about different cost share programs and weatherization. So so that's one way that we could try to work, tying in BIPOC communities with the neighbor groups within each ward team, so that it creates a pipeline for feedback on the Climate Action Plan, but then also keeping the relationships going related to implementation as well. So thanks.
Thanks, Sean. Yeah, I think that's a great call, and I did see that invite and will be there. So I'm looking forward to learning more and brainstorming more about that kind of dialogue channel between different wards and SEAC. Any other questions or thoughts before we let Alicia go? All right. Well, thank you so much for being here. We look forward to continuing to engage and to a strong plan. And yeah, we appreciate you doing all the work to make it happen.
Absolutely. We're looking forward to it. I have to share one quick thing. So when we met with Kim's group on Friday, his icebreaker was favorite karaoke song. And I had to tell him, I was like, that's awesome. I was like, I don't think I've ever been welcomed into a committee process, work plan process so warmly. So we are really looking forward to engaging and maybe using that karaoke question as part of how we engage others too. Like, what is your, music? People relate to music. So how can we make this a fun process where people can come and feel like they're a part of it? So
that's great. I'm going to take note of that icebreaker question too. I love that.
It was great. He didn't make us sing though, because that was good. All right. Well, have a great evening, and thank you so much for allowing us to share.
Thank
you.
you.
Too. Thanks so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. Well, that's exciting. Kim, do you want to, can I send it to you for the next agenda item?
Yeah, I did want to just kind of find out what you thought about the Hennepin reconstruction letter, if you want to bring that in. I know we were kind of waiting for Matthew Douglas May, but maybe Aaron too, if you, I wasn't privy to that conversation you had with Matthew yesterday afternoon.
So for those of you who were on the January meeting, you might remember that towards the end of the meeting, Matthew brought up the Hennepin Avenue redesign and wanting to do a letter of support from SEAC, particularly around bike lanes and other mobility related aspects to the redesign. When looking at a letter that he helped to draft and just thinking about the letter more as a whole, I was wondering if it would be better if SEAC were to potentially get a presentation on on the topic around the redesign prior to doing any sort of letter, just so we could potentially feel more comfortable and confident in the sort of recommendations that we're giving. But I also didn't know if it was something where that topic was of interest to other people in terms of actually doing a presentation, having a presentation like that. So
I'd be interested in hearing.
So, hi, Erin, may I speak? Sorry.
Yes, go for it.
Anna, you okay with me jumping into? Sorry. I actually don't know that we're going to learn anything new. Public Works has recommended an option that aligns with what Matthew was articulating. So the debate here isn't about which design SEAC would support. It's more about SEAC expressing support for Public Works recommended option over the potential concerns that are being raised by other parties. There's been an insane amount of public outreach on this project in the corridor, and I'm also a little bit concerned about timing because Public Works expects to put this to approval by whomever. It sounds like it still will go through the council, although with the strong mayor, it's unclear whether the council has veto authority anymore or not. But it will be going for approval at the end of Q1 or early Q2.
Okay.
So if we were to get it on next meeting's agenda, maybe that would be in time, but anything after that is unlikely to be timely.
Too late.
So I'm not saying no, I'm just adding in that information for us to consider. And I will say, I apologize because I was also supposed to go back and find the previous letter that SEAC provided on the Transportation Action Plan, and I missed that email until tonight. But
things get busy. It's totally fine.
But I'll say that in general, we didn't comment on anything specific to like Hennepin Avenue. It was generally supportive of the Transportation Action Plan. And we basically said things around the idea that space for motor vehicles needs to be considered from a defend the space that is proposed perspective rather than a maintain the status quo and defend the alternatives perspective. So I do believe that we could very easily just reference that letter and minimize the amount of time we have to spend on it, because we've already gone on the record and said that more space for motor vehicles at the expense of other of green infrastructure or other types of infrastructure is not in alignment with the city's environmental goals.
Mm-hmm.
And I could even share my screen. I have the letter up if people want to see the specific paragraph that I'm referencing.
I guess it would be helpful to just get a poll of people to see if we want to reiterate some of the points that we've brought up in the past to support the Public Works moving forward with the redesign, or if we want to have more of a presentation on it before we're submitting a letter. So I guess kind of opening it up to see where people lie on that dichotomy. I see that somebody has a hand up, but I can't see who it is.
Yeah, Tess. One is me. Yeah. Thanks for that clarification, Nick. I was also wondering about sort of the timeliness and who we would actually be addressing. And it sounds to me like if the role for us is just to say we support this to city council or whoever is actually making the decision, that to me doesn't seem like it requires a presentation. You know, we're basically just giving it a thumbs up and not really making substantive comments. I think it would be helpful to, in addition to reiterating what we've said, as Nick brought up, to make some direct comments about the actual specifics of the Hennepin plan, but I don't personally feel like we need to have a presentation in order to say, yes, we support this. Just my 2 cents. Thanks.
Thanks, Tess. Any other thoughts about, so the question is, not necessarily do we want to submit a letter, but do we want to have a presentation about it in order to submit a letter, or do we just want to submit a letter, I guess? Is that, is that right,
Yeah,
Erin?
and a third option would be just do nothing.
Right, okay.
I forgot to give that as another option earlier, so.
Nice. Well, thanks for bringing this. Sandy's hand is up. Go ahead.
Thanks, Anna. Question for Nick, I guess. You had mentioned there's been a ton of public outreach, but has there been opposition at all? Or is this kind of like everybody loves it and we should just go along? Okay. Then, I mean, I think it does maybe warrant more discussion.
And I'll just summarize, if I may, Anna. So the debate has largely been about how to use the right-of-way space that exists, because it is finite. There's trade-offs, and the debate has been largely around on-street parking versus transit lane versus bicycle space and green space. And so, you know, that is the issue, and the recommended design, as I noted, aligns largely with what SEAC has recommended, and you know, the specific opinions that, like Matthew stated, are not uncharacteristic for what SEAC was thinking when we wrote that letter related to the Transportation Action Plan.
But I know that we were also interested in reducing vehicle miles traveled, and couldn't a transit lane potentially accomplish that better than a bike lane? So
the proposed option has both the bicycle lane and the transit lane.
Oh, okay.
And a single through lane for all other traffic, but at the expense of the parking spaces primarily. And it makes the street only a single through lane at all times.
I see. Okay.
It does add left turn lanes, though, to address some of the safety concerns that were brought up by people in the corridor in the first round, I believe.
Thank you. It's helpful.
Basically, the opposition is people who love parking, on-street parking. That's.
Got it. Okay, then they don't have my
That's the quick summary, yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lauren. Erin, go ahead.
I think my recommendation at this point would be that we do a letter, and I can take some time with Matthew, and then just whatever, Nick, you sent me via email, to put a draft together, and I can send it around via email prior to our next meeting, so that hopefully we can have a shorter discussion and approval of it, if that sounds like a decent plan to folks. Nick?
You can finish. Are you done?
No, that was it.
So I just want to make sure, do we have, is there something else on the agenda for tonight, or is this our last discussion?
We were gonna spend a little bit of time briefly discussing the jam board activity and just interest in other topics for SEAC for the rest of the year.
Okay.
And Angela.
Oh, and Angela. I'm so sorry. Yes, so we got a couple things.
Okay. Let's do those other things then, and I think it would be helpful to walk through the letter that we previously sent with people, if we have time at the end here, just so that we can gather people's thoughts if they have any significant concerns, or recruit people who have ideas to add into the letter, so that it's not just you writing it and Matthew writing it by yourself. because I think there's some things that people may react very specifically to in the previous letter that will be helpful. But we'll do the other things first. And the only thing I'll say is I confess my wife has a evening meeting for her job that is starting at 7 or maybe even before 7. So I may have to go off camera for it. I'll try to be as present as I can.
Thanks, Nick.
Thanks, Nick. So wait, I'm sorry. Was that proposal to put something together tonight or kick it to?
The proposal that Nick was giving was to go through some of the other agenda items that we have, but then to share the letter that we've written in the past to just get people's take on those comments to see if there's any sort of like changes that we might want to make.
Okay, perfect.
And nodding or not.
Okay, I think that sounds good. Erin, can I also request when you are sending out information about the letter and drafting the letter, if you could like send a link to like what the proposal is and some background information about the project, that would be helpful. Or if anyone wants to send that out before then, because I'm not super familiar with it myself. Thank you so much. Okay, awesome. Kim?
Yeah, I guess, the other thing that we wanted to do is just, last time when we had our meeting, we spent a little time putting some ideas out here, and I thought maybe we'd just sort of share the Jamboard and see if there are any other things that you might want to add to this, or if they've, as far as the different types of ideas, anything you want to, call out or anything like that. I'm going to put the Jamboard link into the file there, and I'll put this on up. So last time we asked what are the greatest strengths or part of your community neighborhood. We have bike connection, sense of community, parks, lake, diversity, urban location, overlap of community interests, access to jobs, outdoor transit, ability to find communities. Those are all positive things there. Was there any things that people wanted to comment on or add to in regards to the Jamboard? I think what we're kind of looking at is how we augment the topics we work on, as well as what are some of the strengths that we have, or we want to, make improvements within our neighborhood. That's where we're trying to get at some of these things.
And I think if anyone, it's still open. So if anyone wants to add anything, there's a little like sticky note icon on the left. And so you can anonymously create a sticky note and add things to any of the slides if you want to do that. Kim, would it make sense to like leave this open for the rest of this meeting and then ask folks to also, if you have any other additional thoughts before the next meeting, leave them here, and then we can think about some additional ways to aggregate these and categorize them and solicit additional like other topics that people want to talk about for SEAC going forward. Does that make sense? I feel like I just said a lot of words.
Yeah, that's fine. I guess, yeah, we, we had more time. We could have individual conversations about each of these particular topics, but I think this fourth one is what's really interesting too. sort of see what we can do to bring these topics forward and start working on a couple of them, or getting at least information gathered around them. Certainly things like single-use, plastic reduction. We know we're trying to get some stuff on scooter sharing and things like that. Of course, we're working on climate action plan. But anyway, yes, I think, folks have ideas and suggestions. Let's put them on there, and we can utilize that as we plan out our topics for future agendas for the rest of 2022.
Sounds good. Thank you. And yeah, thanks everyone for thinking through that and adding sticky notes. You can move them around and make them bigger and smaller, and yeah, have some fun with it if you're into that.
The one quick thing I want to note is that there's limited space in terms of like what you can then see on a sticky note. So if something goes off of the sticky note and you're wondering what the person said, if you double click in on it, it'll at least show you all of the text that's there, even if you can't necessarily see it originally.
Nice. That's great to know.
Like the one Kim just clicked on there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. This
Excellent.
one. Yep.
Very cool. Great. Well, should we, I think, yeah, feel free to keep utilizing that and adding more things there. And in the meantime, should we move on to the next item of business?
Sure. Yeah. There's I think the only other thing we really have on here is updates and announcement from commissioners and staff. I did share some things on there on the agenda with you, but I wanted to just take a moment to introduce one of our new staff persons, or our newest staff person, to sustainability, and that's Angela Williams, who's been helping us out tonight. And I thought maybe I would just turn it over for a couple of minutes to Angela to sort of tell folks a little bit about yourself and why you're interested in all this work in sustainability and environmental justice. You're on mute still.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Thank you for that introduction, Kim. I appreciate it. I am here to do this work to make sure that the Black community get what it needs to sustain itself. We already know, everybody already knows about disparities and what's available and what's not available. So my work here is to hold the city of Minneapolis accountable, to step in where I feel is necessary to talk about the system of racism and how to keep them on point about I found myself doing that. Keep them on point about what they produce, and let me see, and just get the work done. Basically, it's it's a lot of silos in North Minneapolis. Everybody's doing the work. The money is not being distributed equally. I wanted, I don't know. I just want to be part of the team that kind of help change things, and I really would like to see a change this year. Because we can't keep going. 2023, we're doing the same thing. 2024, we're doing the same thing. So something's got to change, and I have to hold white folks accountable for this. Black people, we got issues too. We have work to do in our community to sustain. To get what we need, and everybody's trying so hard. So I'm just here to keep people honest. And if I know I'm here to do the work. I know I'm here with my boots on the ground, but I just need to see more like the lady earlier that gave the presentation. I didn't get nothing out of it. And then when I asked her for the list of people that the small ones, she didn't really, the only one I was familiar with was Appetite for Change. And so I didn't really hear anything else. And then she says, go to this list. And then I went and I couldn't navigate, you know what I'm saying? I couldn't find it. So that's another issue, you know what I'm saying? All that just doing something to, you know, I did this part of my job, I read it, I'm gone, you know. So I'm just here to do what I'm supposed to do, whatever it is, and whatever type of service I can contribute, which includes what Leslie said, the Green Zone Summit and everything. So I'm here for, I wasn't prepared to give a presentation on that, but yeah, so I am, yeah, that's why I'm here. So I am here to speak my mind on things, speak my truth, and hopefully I can get some honest dialogue and feedback from it. So thank you.
Awesome. Thanks so much for the introduction. And yeah, it's great to have you in the space, and we look forward to working with you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So now I guess, yeah, you know, I've listed a couple other initiatives that we have going on. We are taking applications on Green Cost Share. So if you know of any businesses who are looking to do any energy efficiency upgrades, there's matching grants that are available from the city right now. If you're looking to do any installation of solar, either on a business or on a residence, there's opportunities to be able to get additional assistance through the Green Cost Share program, and applications are open. The link is in there. When you're working with, if you're looking for solar on an individual house, there's 2 organizations that are working on a group buy to save money, and those are the ones that are being funded through the Green Cost Share, and those are Solar United Neighbors, SUN, and also the Midwest Renewable Energy Association. So there's 2 organizations there. If you need any assistance or want more information, just drop me an email. We're also continuing our work on at the Minnesota Legislature. A couple of great bills looking to allocate some real money to climate change have been making their way through the House side. And we also have a Better Buildings Minnesota legislation that's moving forward as well too, to really have all new buildings fall under the state building code, and be able to create a glide path towards net zero energy buildings as the standard by 2036. So that's going on. There's some information there. All boards and commissions will continue to meet virtually. The city council is going to have in-person meetings first, then they'll transition boards and commissions. So at this point, we will continue on for our March meeting virtually, until we hear differently. So there's not really a set date on that at this point in time. Yeah, and then I did attach in the agenda as well to our 2-page sustainability 2021 year in review, which kind of highlights some of the accomplishments that we've had as part of the work that we've been doing on all of the different aspects of the sustainability division. So those are some of the updates that we have going on. We are also planning, as I kind of mentioned at the presentation with Alicia Belton, to bring forward the science-based targets as well as our local solar goals to council for approval in March. So we'll be getting information into council members' hands in the next week or so, and shooting for a March 21st date to bring that in front of the council. So are there any other announcements or updates that commissioners would like to share?
Hi, this is Leslie. As you heard, the Green Zones, we're working with the CCC, bringing Green Zone Summit and community engagement. And Angela is working inside and out with our group to make different changes to bring community awareness. We have a billboard contest, and I'm working on a coloring book for the Green Zones, and it's kind of complicated, but I'm working through the details of that. But welcome, Angela, and we appreciate you and looking forward to moving forward in our relationship to make a better North Side and community for all to have a better place to live. But Aaron agreed to help with our communications for the North Side Green Zone because it's something different to reach to the public, as you know, COVID, and it's not safe out there to put flyers. So we're working on a communication team to have the word of the Green Zone's work is going out. So thank you guys, and thanks for the support and everything. Stay safe.
Thanks, Leslie. Aaron, go ahead.
I was curious, Leslie, too, are there certain, and Angela, since you're here also, like, are there particular ways where SEAC could be helpful in terms of that event? Like, would it be valuable to take some time in one of these meetings to, like, bounce ideas around or anything? Like, I just want to make sure that we,
Yeah, I'm sure we can
SEAC
fit you
are
in
helping the North Side.
We can fit you in somewhere. I am currently working on the agenda now, so I will put you down as a potential presenter on something, or have a workshop on something. However you feel like, Anna, is that your name, Anna? Yeah. However you all feel that you can fit in to participate with the event, that would be great. Yeah.
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 Thanks for the question.
Another question. Is this committee, do you all, everything is under the city. Do you all have money that you can help? No. Okay.
Yeah,
So
so as a commission, we as commission members, we are not paid by the city, and as a commission, we do not have money either. So as far as this commission goes, only a few of us have ever seen each other in person. Otherwise, the only times that we've really like talked to each other are through these virtual meetings that we have once a month. So we're kind of loose as far as like a body of people go. But we are all committed in terms of the actions that SEAC has.
Okay, well, I put my phone number in the chat. I'm gonna put my I think y'all got my email, because Kim, I think, CC'd me on the email. So what you could do, if you could reach out to me and send me something, Anna or Aaron, whoever, how you would like to participate and help us with this, and that would be great.
Will do. Yeah, thanks so much.
The thing is, we're still in the planning part of it, and the meeting times has started changing. So the Green Zone has their own entity of the planning, and then you guys, since you're the city, you'll probably get an email from the CCC committee. Don't ask me what that means, all these ABC things.
What is CCC?
Community Connections Conference.
Thank you, Angela. I'd be like ABC 1, 2, 3. Yeah, those people. But yeah, so you guys will probably get a blast from them. So it's a community. So basically, I see it growing as bigger than what the Green Zones anticipated, and so it's going to be a pretty big event held at the convention center. So we're more than happy to have everybody in the environmental world, especially the sustainability department, set up there and do a presentation or something. But it's a big space we have, and I'm just really geeked about everything that's happening, and I'm glad that Angela stepped in for Julie to fill those shoes. It sounds like she got some coming in there with some boots on our butts. But here we go. Thank you, guys.
I have an idea for that coloring book too, Leslie. It's not as hard as you think.
Okay, we can chat about that.
Yeah, we can talk about it. Okay.
Yeah,
love that. Cool.
So Leslie and Angela, I would just say too, like, obviously you have the planning committee within the Green Zones, but if there's anything that SEAC members can do to help out, feel free to bring those forward.
Okay, I will.
I volunteer myself for whatever you guys need for.
Okay, and we can let the CCC people know too. We can let them know that you want to be involved too.
Yep. Thank you.
Excellent.
Oh yeah, you guys, it's free food too. Free food.
Nice. Yeah, that sounds great. May 21st. Okay. Perfect. Well, we're right at time. Are there any last minute announcements or questions, concerns? Tess, go ahead.
Yeah, just quick question. I was looking through the calendar and saw that our April meeting is on the 12th. I assume that's because of Passover.
Yes.
I have a standing second Tuesday board meeting, but I guess I'll do what I can.
Cool. Thanks for the heads up.
Yeah, it was changed because of Passover. That's correct.
And thanks for flagging that too. That's good to know. I hadn't noticed that. Any other? Go ahead, Erin.
Just me. Since we are basically out of time here, what I will do is when I send out an email regarding like a possible letter around Hennepin Avenue redesign, Matthew's already gotten a draft that's put together, so we'll use that as a starting point. But then I'll also include the link, like Nick did here in the chat, for the letter that we used in the past regarding the Transportation Action Plan. And then I will also include a link to the redesign plan and other sort of pertinent information. So look for that email from me in the next few days, and we can continue to talk more via email before we have the more discussion on in March.
Thank you for that, Erin. Appreciate it. Nick?
Yeah, I just want to note that if anybody wants to ask questions about that previous letter, I'm sure no one's surprised to hear that I was one of the ones who helped us put that all together. I'm happy to talk through how we ended up on each of those specific sections. Not all of them are necessarily relevant to this conversation, but I know as we talk about the climate action plan, folks may be interested in understanding some of that, since that's the last big community-wide plan that happened. That was CX comments on it.
Perfect. Thank you. All right. Any other? I know we're over time. Any other last minute things? All right. I think we need a motion to adjourn.
This is the time when you get to say, like, does anybody object?
Oh, right. Okay. Nice.
All get to leave.
Very efficient. Does anyone object to adjourning? Hearing none, no objections except for Barbara.
Oh,
okay.
Just waving goodbye.
She's waving goodbye. Nice.
Good.
Well, thanks so much, everyone, for the engagement discussion today. Just appreciate this group, and another shout out to Erin for all that she's done for SEAC over the past 4 years and building a really good base for us to work off of.
I'm not disappearing off the face of the earth.
I'll
try my best to not speak over you too much, Anna. I'm really
feel
sorry.
Free. Go for it. Yeah, not a problem. All right. Well, with that, take care, everyone. Have a good night. Stay warm. Stay safe.
Stay safe, everybody. Bye.
Bye, everyone.